So here is a brief intro on the movie My Night at Maud, Ma Nuit chez Maud, by Éric Romer, who was a French film director who lived from approximately 1920 to 2010. And I say approximately because he was extremely private about his life. Romer is not his real name, and not even his own mother knew that he was a film director. She thought um, that he was still a teacher. He was a Catholic, so extremely private. Whenever he appeared on television, he appeared masked. His life history is relevant for the movie, so I'll just briefly go into that. He majored in history, but he also studied philosophy and theology at university. After working for some years as a teacher in Clermont-Ferrand, where the movie is set, he started working for a film magazine. There he befriended a number of filmmakers of the Nouvelle Vague or New Wave, which was a new style of making movies in France, including Jean-Luc Godard, François Truffaut, Claude Chabrol, and Jacques Rivette. Gradually, though, he felt more and more at odds with them, particularly because they were more left wing than he was. He certainly wasn't. And he also didn't share their anti American sentiments. In fact, he admired American cinema, and the influence it has on his work is clear. So, Romer made 26 long movies during his long career, and many of these were in series. For example, he has a series on the Four Seasons. And Ma Nuit chez Maud, a movie from 1969, appears in a series called Les Contes Moraux, which are 6 moral tales. Now, a moral tale doesn't mean a moralizing tale. He uses this term in the 18th century sense of a story that tells us something about the human condition. And these stories have a fixed structure. They feature a male protagonist who is presented with an ethical dilemma and who lives according to certain ethical principles. And very often the situation is the following. It's a man who is about to commit himself to a woman, but then, just before that happens, he meets another woman. And so the main theme is romantic choice, but through this idea of romantic choice, he looks at ethical and existential dilemmas, as well as religious choices, as you will see throughout this movie. Now, this is a Nouvelle Vague movie, and what that means is it has a very peculiar aesthetic. It has only circumstantial music, it has natural lighting, and it uses natural surroundings rather than studio sets. So it will, for instance, rather want to film in an actual church rather than in a setup studio one. And it uses the actual time setting and light. It's also deliberately shot in black and white, and Romer tended to shoot quickly and cheaply on location. And already you can see that in the start of the movie, where the protagonist attends a Catholic Mass. The Catholic Mass is a Mass with an actual priest, and you see an actual piece happening of an actual service. The film takes place on Christmas Eve, and it was also shot in that period. And it was snowing during that time, and you see that also, so that's all real, it's all genuine. Now, interestingly, Romer really wanted the lead actor, a very well-known actor at the time, Jean-Louis Trintignant, the man who plays Jean-Claude, the Catholic engineer. And he really wanted this actor, but the actor said, "I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm not available at that time." And Romer said, "No problem, then we'll just postpone the movie by an entire year." So the movie was postponed, filming and production was postponed by an entire year to make room for Jean-Louis Trintignant's schedule. So you have as characters Jean-Claude, an engineer who is Catholic and feels committed in this faith. Then his old friend Vidal, who is an atheist Marxist. And then Maud, a pediatrician who is recently divorced and who is an atheist freethinker. And then we have Françoise, who is a postgraduate student in biology and who is also a Catholic. And the story centers around Pascal's wager. Now, Pascal is mentioned and quoted explicitly throughout the movie. Now, this may seem like a terribly niche idea for a movie, but something to keep in mind is that French adults have all gotten philosophy in high school, and they would have known Pascal as they would know other French philosophers such as Montaigne, Descartes, and many others. Now, Jean Claude, the Catholic engineer, says at some point to his friend Vidal that he didn't think much of Pascal and that he was disappointed rereading him. And that is very ironic because he has basically wagered to be a Catholic and live a Catholic life and marry a Catholic woman. You see that from the start of the movie where he attends Mass. What he objects to is Pascal's austerity. So Pascal gave up mathematics at some point, which was a huge passion of him, and sciences. Jean Claude, the character, doesn't think that you need to give up all that much to be a Catholic. You don't have to, for instance, give up fine wine or mathematics as a pastime, and he enjoys both wine and mathematics. So, as you'll see, so there's several mentions of the wager, and it's interesting to think about how that works throughout the movie. You have Vidal, who's a Marxist atheist, and he says that he is buying into Pascal's wager. So at some point he says, okay, imagine now that there's two hypotheses. Hypothesis A is history makes no sense. And hypothesis B is that history has meaning. Even if the probability of that hypothesis of history making sense and having meaning were only 10%, he would need to wager on it. Because if it turns out that it's correct, he would have wasted his life if he hadn't wagered on it. Now, the one thing that Jean-Claude needs to give up if he were to continue to be committed to Catholicism and marry a Catholic woman and so on, is that he would have to give up romantic flings, and he says that he has had a fair few of them, but he also says that he's never been put to the test. He's never been put in a difficult situation where his faith is put to the test. And obviously, it's not much of a spoiler to say that if somebody says this early on in the movie, you know that it's going to happen, that he's going to put to the test. So you have this situation where he has this conversation with Maud. She's clever, she's attractive, she's divorced. Moreover, they're completely snowed in and there's only one bed. So I want you to think about, it's interesting to think about Pascal and how the wager fits into this story, about Rohmer's thoughts on Pascal's wager, and also how the story can relate to other thinkers who have thought about these questions about committing yourself in faith, such as, for example, William James. Now, overall, a thing to keep in mind is that Rohmer's movies are about ordinary things. They just feature people doing really ordinary things. It's really what you would call lo-fi rather than sort of dramatic movies. They're usually romantic movies. They just feature people going for drinks and driving in the snow, attending Mass. But through those very ordinary, low-key things of everyday existence, Rohmer seeks to reveal the deep existential dimension of human lives. The sort of choices that we make, the kind of way that we want our lives to go, given a variety of circumstances that we're in. So yeah, it's a great movie. Some people have argued that Rohmer started a new kind of genre of movie, namely the Rohmer movie, because you have all these conversations, as you'll see, always low key, questions and situations, and existential ideas that are through the concept of very fairly simple romantic movies.